So, now that we're starting to really get into these foundations of self-esteem, the 4 pillars, really seeing where we have weaknesses, where we have cracks, cracks. Here's the potty thing again. And where we need to take down certain things, rebuild certain things, all of that. I'm going to talk this afternoon about something that's really quite important in order for us to navigate our way through the spiritual process, but also through our lives. And I was talking earlier, just a few minutes ago, about the importance of your attunement, your alignment, being centered in the heart, in the deeper place of knowing, having your boundaries in place when you're going through moments of big transitions, when you're going through periods where you are taking down some of your self-esteem foundation at your very core and rebuilding yourselves and going through moments of vulnerability and letting go of a lot. Because when you need to really step into something completely new and recreate something anew, you can't do it from a place of control, doing it from a place of ego, doing it from a place of the mind, recreating the new, because the only thing the mind knows is what it has experienced before. The mind is a library of everything that you have experienced in this life alone, not even other lives, and that's all it knows. So of course it's not going to be able to recreate something new. All it can do is take ingredients of things you have experienced so far and combine them differently. But that's not really the new, is it? Not really, when you want a fresh start and do something in a completely new way. So you need to make sure that you have a really clear connection in your being and in yourself of what is the highest, clearest love that you can connect into and that you can be aligned to and attuned to and be influenced by and fill yourself up with. And there's a lot of things in the world and a lot of things on the path and a lot of things in our lives that appear to be love, but are not really love. And sometimes they do a pretty good job of appearing to be love, masquerading as love, but it's really about fear, it's really about ego. And I'm sure, if you kind of start to review and think yourself, I'm sure you will find some examples, and we will talk examples in a little while, of things that you did in your life or things that happened in your life that you thought you were doing out of love or someone was doing out of love for you. But after the fact, maybe as you started to see the effects of it or review what was really going on for you, you realized that it wasn't all that clear. It actually was more about fear than about love. And we need to develop the ability to do 2 things. First of all, we need to develop the ability to be really honest with ourselves as to what it is that we're doing. What are our motives and motivations for doing it? What is our intention? What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to get through making certain choices, behaving in particular ways, doing certain things, thinking certain things, engaging with certain things? And secondly, we need to get better and better at discerning when people we encounter, things that we come across in our lives are really about love or not. Simple example. If someone, a friend, someone in your entourage, really comes every day to have a cup of tea with you and chat, and they're really interested in what's going on for you, and they every now and again they invite you for dinner or to go out shopping together, and they like to spend time with you, and you talk a lot, and they really just they feel, oh yeah, I feel really supported by this person. They seem to be really interested in what's going on for you and let you talk about what's going on for you, and they always seem to be quite understanding and supportive and all of that. And would you say that person loves you? Yes. Well, apparently they would, and possibly they can, and possibly they do, but maybe not. Because what could happen is that maybe that person, and actually I have known a person like that, that person is doing all these things because they have a desperate need to be needed and a desperate need to be kind of the agony aunt, the one that's always there to comfort and console, because they have that need to be needed. They kind of want to be the one who help others out all the time, because if I help other people out, then they'll need me and then they'll love me, and then they'll need me and want me in their life. And so where that person is coming from is that not really that they really love you, they just have a need to be needed by you. So, and yet, if you really don't look too deep, or don't have really the ability to sense what's really going on for this other person and where they're coming from, it would seem that this person loves you. I mean, they're there for you, they spend quality time with you, they listen to you, they support you. Isn't that what love does? You would say so. So there's a lot of things like this that we actually, even in society, trained to believe is love. And there's actually a book that I read to my daughter sometime where it's all about what love is. The book starts with this little character asking her, what is love? And so her grandma takes her to this whole journey of observing things in nature. So there's the mother bird that teaches her baby birds how to fly, and then there's the mother squirrels that feeds the babies, and then there's the mother rabbit that stays close to the baby that's hurt its paw, and all these things, add up, and it's like, oh, is that what love is? Oh, yes, that's what love is. And every time I finish a story, I add my own chapter to that, going, well, actually, these things can be love, and people that love you can do things like this for you, but sometimes people who do these things for you, they don't really love you, Love is something that you actually feel and sense. It's a tangible force. It's something that an energy that someone holds you in and projects towards you and well, not throws at you, not like projects your love, I love you, take that, not like that. But they really kind of send that love towards you and hold that love for you, and the behavior, the actions that come from that can be all sorts of things. And we know sometimes that the best way to love someone is to give them a kick up the bum and tell them to get a life and get over themselves. And we know that, anyone here who's a parent, we know that sometimes the best thing you can do for your kids when you really love them is to let them fall flat on their face and learn the lesson. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it is to be there for them to catch them. Love can be anything, expressed in many ways. Let's look at lots of different examples. I'm just going to go through, I've kind of brainstormed a little bit, a series of examples. And as I go through that, I'd really like you to kind of ponder anything you have experienced like that, whether it may be you yourself in your life, or it might be someone you know. Because it's really important to kind of try to relate that as much as possible to something you have actually experienced, because it really helps you having those realizations of where you have patterns in you that can cause you to buy the front of something being love when something is not necessarily about love. Now, the example I just gave there was about you being able to discern someone else coming from a place of love towards you versus not coming from a place of love towards you, and going beyond the actions and the words into actually feeling where that person was really coming from when they were interacting with you. The other thing that you need to be able to review and monitor and discern is when you are telling yourself that you're doing something out of love, but it's really not. It's really about fear. And a classic example of that is when you're in a dysfunctional relationship and you've been in that relationship for a while. It's very dysfunctional. It's actually, it's energizing your ego. It's being destructive, really, to both people. But you feel you really love the other person and you really want to help them and support them. You're worried that if you leave them, they might come to harm, or they might do, harm to another person. And I'm not talking necessarily about serious harm here, like as in, some serious concern about someone's life or anything. That's a very particular case. But you really tell yourself that you want to stay in the relationship with them because you love them and you want to give them the time perhaps to fall on their feet, or you just tell yourself you want to save them. That's the classic one. Women love to do that one. You stay in a relationship that's dysfunctional because you want to fix the other person. You want to save them. Surely with my love, I can help him. If I love him hard enough, he's going to heal. He's going to get better. His life is going to get better. And I'm sure several people here would be able to relate to that. And that's a classic one. And, in a case like this, that woman, for this example, tells herself that she's staying in the relationship out of love because she loves that man and she really wants to help him. But really, in the vast, vast, vast majority of cases, if not all of them, it's first of all about her own need to rescue and save and fix. And, you know, I know that one because I used to run that pattern very much so. You know, you pick up the lame ducks and then you save them and, you know, they'll be eternally grateful and never leave you because you've just rescued them, you know. Nice one. So really, it's not about love. It's all about your own need to be needed, your own fear of being left or abandoned, or the fear of rejection. It's about the fear of being alone sometimes. You know, you don't want to leave. You know your relationship is dysfunctional, but you don't want to leave, and you tell yourself it's because, oh, there's a chance there. You love the other person. You know, surely love is going to win over. But really, you're just scared of being alone, or you're scared of what it means in terms of, you know, wow, suddenly I have to find a new place to live. I have to change my whole life. And a lot of people are, especially when they've been in a relationship for a long time, they're very scared of that. So the things we tell ourselves. Here's another example. When there's an opportunity that presents in your life, there's an opportunity, I don't know, it can be in your career, it can be in your service, your spiritual path. Wow. And in that moment you just, oh, wow, you know, you get that recognition in the heart that feels so right, the heart sings. But, you know, you want to just take a moment, take your time to really think it over and mull it over, make sure you don't, you know, make the wrong decisions, make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, and make sure you do it right. And so you're going to take your time, you know, you're really going to, okay, step back, you know, calm down and really go through the steps and think it over. So, you know, it might seem for a lot of people that this would be the wise thing to do, right? And in some cases it might be. You know, sometimes there's things that present, you need to just make sure you're clear when you're making that choice. However, in that particular example, that opportunity really presented, and you had that heart recognition that this was right. And so in those moments where you just have that knowing, oh no, I got to think about it, I got to make sure it's right, that's ego. Yeah, and thinking, when you're feeling deeply within yourself something's right, and then you want to think about it, that's a sign. Because the thinker doesn't have the answers. If something feels right, then take the opportunity. But of course, things can go the other way. That sometimes, there's another example, you've been going through quite a challenging time in your life, there's been a lot of feelings coming up, a lot of issues, all of that. It's been a bit of a one step after another, one issue after another. You've been processing. There's been things coming up in your life that have challenged you, and you know, maybe your mentor is going, yeah, that's actually really good. You know, you're growing a lot. There's a lot of lessons in that. Yeah. But it's been quite hard going, and all of a sudden there's a friend that pops over, and they say, oh, you know, I'm going on this great journey all around, whatever, like the sacred sites in Europe or South America or something, and traveling for 2 months, and it's going to be spiritual, it's going to be great, it's going to be so much fun, and why don't you come, you know? And you go, yeah, you know, that sounds exciting, that would be nice, a bit of change of scenery, you know, that would be really fun, let's go. And a lot of people in this situation would rationalize, that's a sign, you know, I've been working so hard, that opportunity that presents, that's a sign that I need to go, you know, on this spiritual trip with my friend, you know. And that's a possibility, but in a lot of cases, in this particular example, would be very easy to see that you're actually running away from the situations in your life that are confronting you, bringing a lot up for you, and getting that instant relief of going, a trip, I can get away from it all, I can run away from it all, I can have a good time, you know, it's going to be lots of fun. And so that seems like the easy solution. But you're going to rationalize to yourself. And, you know, if you really look deep within your heart, you will know that you're avoiding something. That, you know, your motive for going on that trip is not like a real true, like something coming from deep within going, yes, this feels right. It's your ego going, relief, yes. So when you run away from the unpleasant experiences, quick, I'm so excited, yeah. You got to be really discerning, and you got to be really honest with yourself and with your motives for doing things, because anything can be in of and full of, and anything can be out of fear. There is no black and white, there is nothing that's straightforward. But we need to be really able to review lots and lots of choices and situations we've made in our lives and met in our lives that we've told ourselves were about love. Oh, these people love me because there's this and this and these signs. Or, oh, I'm doing this out of love because, oh, it feels exciting, or it makes me feel happy, or because, you know, it makes a lot of sense, or because that's what society usually considers is the wise way to approach this. And you got to be smarter than that. You got to be smarter than that. There's another classic example of fear masquerading as love. Parents with their child, where parents really want what's best for their children. You know, they want them to be successful and happy and just have everything in life that's good and wonderful, right? You know, if a parent loves their child, that's what they want. And you see some parents that really quite firmly guide their children in a particular direction. I want my child, by the time he's 3, I want him to be able to count to 50 and know all the letters of the alphabet and do this, and then I want him to go study law and become a lawyer and do all that. And they have kind of everything. That's quite an extreme example, but it does happen. They may not say it, they strongly encourage the child in this area to take an interest in that, and they push the child, but to them, that's love, because hey, I'm the parent, I know what's good for you, and I want what's good for you, so I'm going to guide you towards that. And for a lot of people, that's what love is. You know, you just guide your children to have the best in life. But what parents usually do when they do that is, first of all, impose what they think is best or what they think is good in the world on their child, when the child might have a different vision of things and different affinities and different things that they're attracted to or interested in. They might have no interest in law, they might want to be an artist or something. And to the parents, it's like, no, you know, artists are penniless and it's very hard to make it. And it is very hard to make it as an artist, let's face it. But, you know, if the child, and maybe to the parent, being happy and successful means having financial security and status in society, because the parents maybe didn't get that. So what the parents are trying to do is live all the unrequited dreams and hopes and aspirations through their children, because like they look back on their lives and they have regrets and they go, oh, if I'd known what I knew now, I would have studied law, or I would have done this, I would have done that, and then I would be happy. So it's too late for me, but my kid can do that. And so they start projecting their unrequited hopes and aspirations and regrets onto the child, and making the child live that. But in their mind, they tell themselves that that's what love does, because I've learned the lessons from my own life, so I'm going to put that on my child, so he gets my wisdom from all my mistakes, and they can get it right instead of me. And you can see how easily you could convince yourself that that's what love does, isn't it? Here's another one, classic one too. You have a friend, you really care about them, you really love them. They're going through a hard time, they're being challenged, and they, you know, kind of a lot of feelings. Maybe they're quite depressed about it, and they're going through a really hard time with it, lots of feelings. And so you choose to be there by their side to help them through it. You listen to what they have to say, you support them, you make them tea, you nod and smile, you go see them every day, you know, you just be a shoulder to cry on, an ear to speak to, and you do that over a while, and you know, that's being a good friend, that's being loving, isn't it? Well, sometimes it is, sure. You know, sometimes that's exactly what you need to do. Sometimes a friend does just need a shoulder to cry on, someone to speak to, and yet sometimes, as I was saying before, the best way to love someone, you know, if they've been doing this for 3 months with making no efforts to kind of let things go or move forward, or, you know, in any sort of way, maybe love would be, well, you know, I understand this is hard for you, or there's some challenges there, but staying here every day moping about is not going to help. So why don't we just go out and do something about it? Or, you know, why don't you just accept that something's happened and let it go, or something. Sometimes that's the best way to love your friend. You know, it's not to just buy into their reality and support them with their reality, but actually challenge their reality, especially when you really feel in your heart that the way they're being and behaving is actually starting to be destructive for them and detrimental to them. Now, another example, and that's really quite one that's particular for people on the spiritual path, and there's a lot of that out there. I've experienced that, some of that myself, and several people here have too, of the false prophet thing, where, you know, if let's say, imagine you've been invited with a friend to go to a talk by some, you know, successful, maybe a spiritual teacher or guru or motivational speaker, someone like that, and you go in and, you know, maybe initially you have a bit of weird vibe, but you know, everyone seems to be happy and nice, very friendly. You get introduced to people and they're really nice and friendly and mild-mannered and just really, yeah, just nice people, you know. And you sit and you start listening to the motivational speaker, and you know, he's funny, he makes you laugh, makes the audience laugh, and he, you know, he says really nice things, lots of nice words, and he you know, you get a bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling when he talks. You start to feel really good, and yeah, you know, what he says really kind of revs you up, and you start to feel really good about yourself and just comfortable and happy and all that. And so, you know, when you feel that, you say, oh, well, obviously, you know, this is an amazing teacher. He's, you know, straight away I've been listening to him talk for 2 hours and I feel happy and warm and excited and all that stuff. And so surely that he must be very spiritual. He must, you know, have a lot of love. But as many of us have found from experience, that's far from always the case, far from always, because love will tend to challenge the fear within you. So when you have someone who really loves you, you will, I mean, the more you grow and the more you clear out your negative ego, the more you will feel that love. Yesterday I was talking about that with, was I talking about it or was it in the video we watched? I forget. But the more you grow and the more you allow yourself to be supported by the universe, the more you're going to feel that love from the universe. It's a bit the same with love from anyone, really. If it's unconditional love and above, and I'm not saying conditional love, because conditional love will not be as threatening to the fear patterns within you, but anything of a higher vibration is going to highlight anything that's of a low vibration in you. So anything that gives you the warm and fuzzies and makes you feel good is not necessarily love. You know, when your ego gets pleased or entertained or has its needs fulfilled, it feels warm and fuzzy. It feels really good. Because suddenly we're back in the comfort zone, we're getting what we want, we're getting what we need, and everyone's happy. And sometimes love can feel expanding and amazing. It's like, wow. But usually, and anyone who has had some of these experiences where suddenly you have a bit of a realization or an opening or a revelation, and you feel all that love, wow, it's usually followed by a period of all your stuff starts to come up, right? Experienced that ever? Yeah. And so you got to really watch that you don't take people, especially people who, you know, who are in the New Age, and that includes us, in the New Age community at face value. It's not because someone seems to be friendly and funny and gives you the warm and fuzzies that they're necessarily really enlightened. Some people are very good at working with energy, and you know, I've been to some seminars by people that were more into the, you know, they were kind of New Agey, but more around the business aspect of things. You know, how to market yourself and how to be successful and build a business and all that, and they're really good. I mean, you know, I was trained enough and sussed out enough by then that I could see what was happening, but a lot of people get really easily sucked into it. It's it's a bit that and same energy you get at sporting events, you know, rah rah, everybody gets revved up, rah rah rah, and wow, everyone starts to really get hyped up, and what they're doing is they're channeling the energy in the audience to build that vibe and make it up, and by the time everyone comes out, everyone's like, yeah, rah rah, you know, I'm gonna take over the world tomorrow, yeah. But that peters, because they're actually not able to sustain anything like that themselves. They're just like filled up with a bunch of energy that's been stirred up with everyone in the crowd, and they feel really amped up. But over a period of days or a few weeks, then that starts to kind of land down and it comes to nothing. There has been no transformation, no major shift that happened, because all that person did was work with energy to just give people the good feeling, you know, that, yeah, inspirational feeling, feeling empowered, feeling happy, feeling warm and fuzzy, whatever, but there has been no fundamental healing, transformation, growth, shifts, clearing, any of that. And by the time that energy is wore out, there's no transformation. And these retreats, we really always work. We do support with a lot of extra energy compared to what you get usually. But we use that energy, that love, to kind of bring you into the areas of what you need to clear and what you need to heal and what you need to let go of. And so there is transformation, there is shifts, there is healing. And hopefully then you're able to hold more of that energy yourself. And coming after the retreat, you should feel different, you should be different and be able to hold, maybe not all of it, but a certain amount of it ongoingly. You should have stepped up. But of course, you're welcome to reinstall stuff you've cleared, and you're welcome to just, choose fear over love again. And once you've chosen fear enough times, you can undo what you've done here at the retreat. And that happens every year. There are some who do that to some extent or another. But that's not what you want to do. And what we're doing here is really allowing you to have shifts, things that then we just hope that you're going to hold ongoingly. It's a very different thing. So you got to be really discerning. It's not because something gives you sensations that it's necessarily love, even if it feels good. But then again, something that makes you feel crap is not necessarily love either. Some energies of fear that come your way can make you feel really sick. They can just feel really wrong. And so you got to have your energy barometer switched on. And usually I've had some experience like that myself, but I've also known friends that were involved in different spiritual movements or groups or schools in different times, and it was like that, the experience, wow, this is great, so amazing, I feel so great. And sometimes they did really well with these things for a while, and then they got a little bit deeper into it, and they started to really get to know the people more, or they got involved a bit closer to the core, or they got a bit deeper into the teaching, or it's just after a while. And they started realizing that there was actually something really off there. That, first of all, they weren't changing like they were hoping to. There was something that wasn't working. But also they just realized that, a lot of the people that were, proclaiming to be something or the other thing were actually not walking the talk, doing a lot of things that were completely out of character with being love. And some of these people just stopped engaging with spirituality altogether, which is such a shame, because some of them could have really grown a lot and done a lot of great things, but because they got really disillusioned, they let themselves buy into the rah-rah and that feels so good. But once they started to realize that it was all just, there was no substance behind it, they really got disillusioned, and they're like, bugger spirituality, I'm not interested, I'll go do something else. And that is on the heads of those people that misled them. And that's a really sad thing, and that's why, partly, it's one of the reasons why we're in the trouble we're in, because we have so few light workers who actually awakened and then held and continue to grow. So many people awaken and within 5 years have just switched off again, because there's so much of that out there. People, all the easy solutions, the great master of this and the great priestess of that, and that feels so great and it's so exciting, but if you start to go, either you see right from the beginning that it doesn't go really deep, or you can really after a while just notice that something isn't right, or it doesn't really take you where you want to go. And so, you got to be really discerning with a lot of these things. Mothers worry. Isn't that what mothers do? Mothers love their children, so they worry for their children. If you love someone, you worry for them, don't you? Well, I hope not, because worry has nothing to do about love and everything to do with fear. Worrying, I've said before, is like praying for what you do not want to happen. Every time you worry about something, you're focusing on what you don't want to happen, you're giving it energy, you're making it more likely to happen. So if you worry that your kid is going to, fall off that ladder that they're playing on, or that they're going to do drugs, or you worry that your partner is going to cheat on you or whatever, and you just worry about that a lot, eventually you'll make it happen. Yay! Thanks, Matt, for loving me so much that you make me fall off my ladder. Great! Nice! And we see so many relationships sabotaged by this kind of stuff because one or both of the partners have fears of certain things happening that they don't want to see happen. And they start to worry about it a lot. And they keep putting that energy into worrying about this or that happening over years and years. And eventually what happens? It happens. So worry, when you love someone, you do not worry about them. When you love something, you do not worry about it. You be aware that certain things can happen, but you choose to not even entertain the possibility. You know it's a possibility, but you're not putting energy into it. You just focus on where you want to go with your life, and you hold a vision of the best for someone, and you don't impose your expectations, you just hold a vision. You just hold potential. And you just put your energy into moving forward in a direction that you actually want, rather than trying not moving forward in a direction you do not want. That's two negatives, it kind of cancels itself out. So worry is not about love. Love, when you really love someone, you've gone through a bit of a strange transitional time in your life, and you've decided, that it feels really right to start to have a change in your life. You may want to start a new job. Maybe you're moving to a new city across the country, start a new job, do a whole new thing, new phase in your life, and you feel really inspired with that. It feels really right. Things that you were doing, it just doesn't resonate anymore. It feels like it's come to a dead end. You're changing, you've changed. You want to start something new. And, a few weeks before you're about to quit your job, pack up your things and leave to that new city, your mother gets really, really sick. And the doctors say it's serious. They're not sure exactly how serious, but, it could take her months to heal, maybe a year, maybe two. This is going to be a really slow process for her to go through everything she needs to go through and recover and heal. And, that's quite full on. And, she really needs you, and she, says, I don't want you to go, I want you to stay with me and take care of me. And, she's your mother, you love her, and you feel, well, she's my mother, I owe her that much. So what would love do? Would love just go, well, I'm going to stay with my mother for the next year or two, and that's what love would do, isn't it? Well, in some cases, it could be, certainly. However, in this particular example, there was something in you that was really, really switching on and going, oh, my God, this feels so right. It's almost like you felt called to go to that other city, start a new life, start a new phase. Just as you're about to leave, this happens. And, for those of you who know, about the link between mind and body, we know that people can make themselves sick from, the negativity they engage with, if they really kind of, engage with a lot of self-hate, self-loathing and shame and things, they can actually make themselves physically sick with it. And people also make themselves sick in order to manipulate others, to get attention, and to be taken care of, to have people gather around them, or to get something that they want, and that happens, and that's a well-known fact. It's no surprise there. And so in this particular case, it feels like the higher love, because sometimes the choice is not so much between love and fear. Sometimes the choice is between a higher love and a lower love. It feels to me that in this case the higher love would be to still carry on with your plans that you felt so called to move and to follow with the transition in your life. And perhaps you would want to make arrangement for someone to be there for your mother, and you call her and all of that if it feels right for you to do that. But love is not always politically correct. And you gotta know that. And I have seen so many times, and I know I have done it too, that where people choose to be so much less than they could be and choose the lower path rather than choose the higher path, because choosing the higher path would make them very unpopular, or would make them seem really cold-hearted or really selfish, and they don't want that. In some cases, choosing the higher path can be very politically incorrect, and sometimes people don't have the balls to do that, and it can be challenging. It can be very challenging. Now, I just want to clarify that all these examples I'm using would be very particular situation where you get a very particular feeling, you get a very particular knowing in your heart. You know, in other situations, it might be actually the higher path might be to sacrifice your plans to be there to support your mother. Because maybe your plans actually were not a higher calling. In this case, they might have been just you running away from some issues or running away from something or just looking for the next exciting thing. And that was not really like a higher calling. It was just you looking for some good times or just being over something and wanting to leave something behind and run away from it. And maybe your mother's been so good for you and you've been a bit selfish your whole life. And so in this case, love would be to actually let go of your little egoic plans and to actually sacrifice your egoic needs and plans and priorities to actually give back to this person who was so good for you and practice being more selfless where you have tended to be more selfish before. So love can be anything, but you cannot judge by how things look or what people say, what people do, or what you tell yourself. It's not about what you tell yourself, it's about what you know deep, deep within when you're really honest with yourself. And love sometimes, well, more than sometimes, most of the time, love takes courage. Because when you're faced with a choice between love and fear, you need to have courage to overcome the pull of fear in order to choose love. Courage is only needed in the face of fear. If you don't have fear, you don't need courage. But if you are confronted with the choice of higher love, which it generally is going to stretch you, even though it's going to feel so right and expanding, it's going to really stretch you because love really is all about encouraging you to evolve and to grow and to become more of the greater potential of who you can become. So that's always going to challenge your self-imposed limitations, your egoic needs and wants, your little patterns. So even though it can feel amazing, it's also going to be really stretching and triggering. And when you have those patterns that are being challenged, you're going to have to call on that courage and choose to exert courage in order to choose the higher love. And sometimes it is the courage to upset everyone else in your family. And sometimes it is the courage to upset your own ego in order to do the right thing by the people who have stood by you your whole life. And really, that's something also we've talked about, just expanding on that example I just used, that when you make decisions to make big changes in your life, the vast, vast majority of the time, at the last minute, there's always going to be something that comes to test you. And sometimes it is the mother that gets sick and says, oh, please stay with me, I need someone to look after. And sometimes it will be that unrequited dream. You know, it's like, let's say that girl you've been lusting after for 2 years that's never been interested in you, and then you feel really inspired to start a new life. You have a whole new thing opening up for you, a whole new door opening, and you're about to go there, and suddenly that girl starts to show an interest in you. Wow, the girl or the higher calling? Whoa, that's a tough choice. And it can be a really tough choice because for 2 years you've wanted that girl so bad. Or it can be the dream job that you've been looking for 5 years, and you've been going from small job to small job, and suddenly it gets offered to you just as you're about to have your fresh new start. And that happens a lot of the time in some guys or another. Sometimes it can be that relationship that you've been wanting forever. And usually what happens is when you have a choice between the higher path, which will be a bit more challenging, and that unrequited dream that manifests, if you choose the unrequited dream, it won't be successful. Because you've chosen it out of fear. You haven't made the choice of love, you've made the choice of fear. And so the girl will lose interest after a while, or the job won't be everything it's cracked up to be, or your relationship that held you back is not going to work out in the long term. And I've seen it happen time after time. It never is successful when you choose the easy fear-based choice over the higher love because you feel that that's your dream. It's not usually working. The whole thing also of raising a child, or anyone like a protege, or it can be like a new student maybe that can come as part of the group, and and you feel that you need to wise them up, to deal with the harsh realities of this world, and you see some parents are like that, they really kind of really harsh with their children, and they confront them with a lot of harsh things because they want their children to be prepared for this big bad world out there, and they want to basically harden the kids, to prepare them for the cruelty of the world out there, and that's, for some parents, they really feel that that's the loving thing to do, and you see that happening in different ways. It's kind of like you feel that loving someone is by preparing them, by being hard on them, and actually in a way that's kind of destructive. You feel that that's actually helping them to be ready, and you see some of that happening in different contexts when there's someone kind of taking someone else under their wings within a particular context, but that's not love. There was actually a quote going around on Facebook recently that went something like, your job of a parent is not to harden or to toughen the kids up to be able to deal with the world, is to raise them to be the people that are going to change the world, and something like that. So, and that's a lovely quote, and that's really, really what you want, causing someone. But you see a lot of parents do that quite unconsciously in lots of more subtle ways, where it's like, don't shine too brightly, don't get too much attention, don't attract too much attention, don't be too demonstrative or don't be too great, or don't stand out too much because then you'll get in trouble, or you'll get bullied, or you'll have this or that, or lots of things that people just teach their children to do or not do out of fear, because they don't want their children to get hurt or don't want their children to get into trouble. And sure, you want to teach your kids to be able to live life in a way that's safe, where they're going to avoid, playing with knives and going into dark alleys at midnight on a Saturday, or all these things. There's obviously common sense things you need to teach your kids, but there's a lot of things that parents impose on their kids that's about contracting and dimming your light and playing small and, not speaking up and not expressing yourself and all these things. And they feel that that's actually going to help the children be safe, but it's not. So you got to really watch that whole thing of trying to help someone by causing them to go into more fear, because that's going to make them either fit in better or be safer, any of that, because that's not love. And yes, sometimes when you love someone and you encourage them to grow out of love, it's going to mean that they're not going to fit in as well, and they are going to be different, and they are going to upset some people. But as we know, that's what love does sometimes. So you got to really watch that in different ways, and ways that may have been done to you as well. Self-love practices. When doing the things where, I'm just going to have some me time and really love myself. And we tell ourselves that that's what we're doing, but it's not really what we're doing. An example of that is, I've had a hard day at work. Let's say you get you had a fight with one of your colleagues, and you got upset and angry, and you were pissed off at them, they're pissed off at you, and it was just really cranky day and all this. So I'm just, I can't wait till I go home, put myself in front of a good movie, eat a tub of ice cream, and everything will be better. I'm going to have some me time, just love myself. Well, that's not love. That's not love. And, for a lot of people, these kind of things are love. It's what we do. They love substitutes, certainly, but they're not love. And really, if you look, if that's what you were doing, first of all, you're avoiding your feelings. You're running with your feelings, filling yourself up with sugar and dairy, and distracting yourself with a movie, so you're not really present with yourself, with what's really going on for you. So you're avoiding and denying. You're not even there for yourself. Loving yourself means, first of all, being there for yourself. So doing anything that's going to distract you from what's actually going on with you that you're struggling with is not going to be about self-love. And that can be going shopping. It's like, oh my God, I have a lot of stuff coming up, I'm going to go shopping and have some self-loving time. Well, that's not self-loving. That's about avoidance and denial. It's fear. My self-fear time. Great. So you got to really be honest. And sometimes we all deserve a reward. We work really hard. Maybe we've gone through really challenging time. You have to remember, this body that we inhabit, the human being, is an animal creature, right? So what it wants is lie around all day, eat, sleep, expend as little energy as possible, avoid any kind of injury or pain. That's what the animal wants. But you, as the indwelling entity, the spirit that inhabits this, when you just let the animal take over, you're not loving yourself. And actually you're not loving the animal, because you're not helping the human being, the animal, evolve and grow and refine itself and its consciousness, and actually want love more than it wants fear, want expansion and growth more than it wants lazing around and doing nothing. You know, so this thing that we inhabit has to be trained. It has to be trained through love, not through banging it on the head and whipping it. It has to be trained through love. And you, as the energy that inhabits this body, are the trainer. You are the leader of this. And when you're having some self-loving time, you have to make sure that it is something that's actually going to be good for you. I mean, you know, let's not get completely, you know, if you have like a piece of chocolate, is that healthy? No. Is it going to be really a big issue? Probably not. You know, you got to also know that there's certain things that don't really matter. It's like everything in life. Certain things matter and certain things don't matter. If you've just worked really hard all day, you've cleared a lot of issues, you've really got into a lot of really deep areas within yourself that were really painful, and you've really worked through that, and you've had amazing shifts, you've had really great realization, you feel really different. Wow, you feel like you're really expanding, there's so much love coming into your heart. Or maybe you've had a great day at work where you've really challenged yourself, you stepped up, you went out there, you had a success, and it was really hard work. You haven't slept much for 3 days because you were preparing for a presentation at work or something, and you've really decided to go for it, have a go, step up, la 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 la. You know, at the end of the day, you want to just sit down. Have a day like this where you've really worked hard and the animal has been serving you really well. You want to sit down and have a nice meal and a chocolate mousse and watch a movie? Sure. No, we're not slaves. You have to reward good effort and good behavior, just like you would with anything or anyone you're training. But when the reward comes before the effort, or as a way to avoid the effort, then that becomes a problem, and that's not self-love. So you got to be really honest with that as well. The other thing that can happen is, especially with people either very driven to succeed in any particular area, including spirituality or perhaps professionally or anything, it's that sense of, well, you know, if I want to succeed, I have to just go, 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 you know, never rest. And, you know, great masters, they don't stop because they're tired, or, you know, they don't stop because they're having a bit of a hard time, or they feel a bit sad or depressed today. They just keep going. And that's true. They keep going. However, sometimes they also know how to stop and take a break, because we need to for our sanity. So sometimes love is to go, I'm not taking a break now, because I know if I took a break now, it would be about avoiding what's really going on, or it'd be about getting the reward before I even make the effort. But sometimes the love would actually going, okay, just stop. You know, we need to replenish, we need to have a break, we need to air our head, have a break. So once again, love can be anything. You got to really watch, and those that tend to be workaholics or really full on with the process of spirituality, you need to still be able to enjoy life as well and have a life outside of work or outside of the process. Life is the process, so there's no separation between the process and life. But, you know, for those of you that tend to just sit at home doing like 5 DVDs and 10 CDs and, you know, process, some days you'll need to do that. But if you start to do that every day, you know, go out, have a walk, go for, you know, a movie or something, have a life as well. So there's a lot of balance, but once again, you got to just really watch that that whole practice of self-love and what that's really about. Another example of something that happens a lot with parents, but it can happen with partners as well. But we'll take the example of a mother there, which seems to be the most common. A mother who has a son who's a criminal. And, you know, she knows that he's a criminal. She knows even some of the crimes he's committed. And let's say in this example, he's actually sexually assaulted some girls or something. And the police comes to her house and asks a question, and she denies that he's a criminal. Because she loves her son, she wants to protect him. She wants to protect him. That's what a mother does, you know. The mother stands by her son no matter what, whether he's right or wrong, does right or does wrong. A mother just loves her son, protects him, stands by him. You know, if he can't even count on his mother, then who the hell does he have in the world, you know? Well, you know, protecting a son who's a criminal, who's doing things like sexually assaulting women, that's not love. That's not love. You know, a mother who would really love her son would actually tell the truth and then be there for her son to support him through the process that he needs to go through to whatever happens next. But love is not about buying into someone's dysfunction and supporting that dysfunction just so you can be on their side. That's not love. That's fear. And you got to watch how you do that in lots of other contexts. In relationships, that's where it can happen, where people pair up in a relationship and support each other's dysfunction and defend it against other people just because that's what you do when you're married or when you're in a couple. And that's not love. Unconditional love and above is always going to be about the highest good. It's not about agreeing with each other, pairing up in weakness, and that happens in friendship as well, where you have friends that just defend each other's dysfunction against everyone else, because that's the only way that they can make sure they keep that friend close, or their friend is not going to leave them, or that they can then have the other friend, know that they can count on the other friend to also defend their dysfunction. Or I'll talk a bit more about the pairing up in weakness thing in a moment, but love is not about defending other people's dysfunction to make them happy, or so you can stay close, or so you can avoid losing them or them being upset with you. That's fear and that's selfishness, and that can be actually very destructive. And in the end, it's not serving them, because you're basically giving support to the dysfunction. You are saying, hey, it's okay for you to be a rapist. It's okay for you to stay in your fear. It's okay for you to play small. And that's not love. That's not going to help that soul in any way on their evolution. Love is always going to be about serving the highest good of that person. And whenever you are serving their lower self, their dysfunction, going into agreement with that, that's not love. Now, the pairing up in weakness thing is something we warn against within the group. Sometimes you get triggered into something and you have particular issues coming up and you start to feel yourself get drawn to develop more of a closeness or a friendship with someone else in the group because that other person runs the same pattern. And they get you, oh yeah, I know what you're feeling because I have the same and blah, blah, blah. And they start to, oh yeah, I really understand you and you really understand them and you feel really understood and you feel like you really get each other and you start to talk about it and yeah. And it's like suddenly you almost feel like you're supported in that dysfunction. But you may not feel that it's supported in the dysfunction. You may feel that finally there's someone who really gets you because no one else does. Well, the thing is that when you're triggered into your ego, no one else is going to really completely get what you're going on about because you're being an ego, and we know that the patterns of the ego don't necessarily make a lot of sense. It's all about defending fear and attacking love, and it's just a bit nonsensical. So when you're triggered and you're an ego and you find yourself starting to pair up with someone else who gets you and yeah, and it starts to go into that us against the world thing, you get me but they don't get us, then you got to be worried because that's a sign, and that may seem like it's a great thing, you have a new friend and you love each other, but it's not about love. Once again, it's about supporting each other's dysfunction and starting to defend that dysfunction and go into separation from those that dare to challenge that dysfunction. So you got to really watch that one. Another one, something that happens a fair bit too, especially with couples. It can happen with parents and children too, but and actually it happens with friends too, so all sorts of relationship. But I'll take the example of a romantic relationship where you and your partner, you love each other, you want to be there for each other, you want to support each other, and then, your partner has a good day, you're happy for them, it's wonderful. When they have a bad day, you feel like you have to be miserable with them. It's like, for better or worse. So if you're happy, I'll be happy. If you're miserable, I'll be miserable with you. And for a lot of people, it's just, you don't even think about it. You just start to go into a similar mood that your partner is in. Like you feel that if they're really depressed, then if you go and be depressed with them, then at least they won't be alone in their depression. And we feel that that's being loving and that's loving them, but it's not loving. If you're not depressed, why would you make yourself depressed in order to be depressed together? That's crazy. And yet we do that all the time. And so you got to really, you got to watch that because, it's like you can love someone without necessarily wanting to go along with whatever's going on for them. You stay in the clearest, highest, brightest as much as possible, and then you're able to hold the space of love as they go through whatever it is that they go through. Here's another example, a bit of once again, a not very politically correct one, perhaps. But, you know, you see an ad on TV about kids in Africa, starving kids in Africa, and, you know, these ads are always kind of heartbreaking and really graphic. You see these kids with, you know, nothing but skin and bones, and it's always just a horrible thing to witness. And you start to really feel like really sad and horrible, and these poor kids, and you feel really sorry for them, and so you decide you're going to donate to whatever cause it is that was advertised in order to help the kids. And I'm not saying do not donate. Please, if you want to donate to any charity, any cause in the world, God knows the world is in a mess, it needs all the help it can get, so go ahead. What I'm talking about here is really where you're coming from. If you start to donate that money from that place of judgment, this is bad, it's terrible, and I'm sorry for these kids, and so on, you're giving that money from a place of fear. And it's very hard not to feel some of these things, especially when you see children in pain, or animals as well, is something that tends to get, you know, pull at people's heartstrings a lot. And it's a terrible thing, and it's very hard to not have some of these feelings. But when you donate, please, you know, when you donate from that place of judgment and fear and sympathy and feeling sorry for, that's not love. Because even though you're giving money, and that will be, you know, very welcome, I'm sure, the energy you're giving with it is an energy of fear and feeling sorry for, which is very disempowering. Because, you know, when you feel sorry for something or someone, and we talk about that a lot too on CDs, feeling sorry for someone is actually not about love. You know, you can feel sorry for someone because they have a leg missing or whatever, and you start, oh God, I'm so sorry for you. And you're basically going into sympathy, which is not the same as compassion or empathy. It's a low vibration. It's all about judging how they are, judging their experience, and feeling sorry for them like they're poor victims. And it's a horrible. And of course, when you see children starving, or of course, how can you not look at it as victims? But when you're contributing more of that energy of fear and judgment and, oh, you poor thing, you're such a victim, it's not helping anything. What you want to do is do it out of love and hope that something better can come along and that change can come along, and holding a vision of what that person with one leg can do. You know, we see some stories of people who, I saw just the other day a video of a man who was born with that arm and really wanted to play the guitar. And people told him, you can't play the guitar. And he did. And he plays with his feet and sings and plays really well and sings really well. Ended up singing for the Pope. And so, you know, that's what you want to, if you see this man, you don't want to go, oh, you poor thing, you have no arms, that's terrible. You want to go, wow, you know, I wonder what amazing life you can have even without arms. That's the kind of energy. Of course, you understand that it can't be easy every day. It's not about like, oh, it's all love and light. But you want to hold a potential of something higher, something better. That's what love does. Love doesn't do things out of feeling sorry for or judging or feeling guilty. You know, if you do some things out of guilt, that's not love. And God knows there's a lot that we do in relationships because we feel guilty. But we tell ourselves that we do it because we love the other person, but really, you know, if we're honest, we do it because we feel guilty and we feel we owe it to them, or maybe we feel obligated. So we got to really watch what our motives are. So fear masquerading as love, whether it's you expressing something, doing something, you tell yourself it's out of love, but if you're really honest, it's out of fear. Or other people doing things, interacting with you, and you buy it at face value because they do this, or they say this, or they act like this, so therefore they must mean that they love me, or that they're doing this out of love. No, love is something that is tangible, that you can feel and sense. Feel into the essence of what's going on. Go beyond the obvious appearances and what is said and done, and just really feel into what's going on. That's the only way you can really know what's about love and what's not. Does that make sense? So I'd like you really to all take a bit of time to review your lives and your experiences and your patterns and your relationships, and really explore where there has been some of that going on, fear masquerading as love. And be really honest. And I hope you get some, there's obviously some that you'll already know, and maybe some you have already realized while I was sharing. But I really hope there's a lot more that you can see that you do to yourself, or in your relationship, or in your work, or in your spirituality, or that others have done, that you have encountered, and just realize, oh my God, I thought that was love, now I realize it's actually not, or it wasn't. So the next wee while we're going to take to do that. So I'd like you can stay here if you want, you can go outside, feel into it. Don't, obviously you're going to have to engage the mind to kind of run a bit of a review, but really feel into what's really going on in that situation, what was really going on in that situation, and ask for the truth, work with the energies to get that reflection. What's the truth here? Is this really about love? Is this really about fear? Sometimes it's a bit of a mixed motives. Then hopefully you'll get a lot from that. So you can go sit outside, be by yourself, you can do it here. We'll take about 20 to 30 minutes to do that, and then we'll have a tea break. So stay with yourself, and then I'll give you a shout when you can break and go for tea break. But this is not about chatting, it's about being with yourself.